$486.85
Your
is
line.
the new
Alright.
balance.
I'd like to call this meeting, the Advertising and Promotion Commission to session. Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Hassan?
Here?
Mr. Gosh?
Here.
Mr. Powell?
Here.
Take a look at the minutes from last meeting. Need a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve.
A motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Alright. Let's take a review of the financial status.
I believe, last time we talked about the finance department taking over the collections, that I think is gonna start January first.
That what you say, it did what?
The finance department is gonna take over more aggressive collection of late accounts, and that'll start January first.
Okay.
You weren't here last meeting.
Yeah, I didn't hear the start date you said, I was like,
I just wanted you to know, so since you see so many yellow boxes, yes. I'm gonna have to get a hold of Tim Pearbolt to see if that Tarzan, grant can be closed out and added back into the balance.
Yeah, cause they wrapped over, it's like the weekend before Thanksgiving, so they're,
Yeah, I
they're
looked
done.
at the date of their event, but they
Yeah.
have 60 days,
Okay,
so I was thinking.
alright. Then on, do we know anything on 24 and 28? 28 seems really out of place for them.
most of the time, I think that's just a collection
Just hadn't
date
caught up.
versus
Okay,
when they got the check, cause she said some actually have came in
okay.
that may not be posted on 28, I don't know
Yeah,
about
it's not either
24.
one of those, but, yeah, I don't know how you wanna treat that. We have almost 6,000 that just came in, so 45% of that would go to parks. It's just not in our books yet.
But 24, I think, missed in October also.
24?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. I've been slammed since yesterday was council meeting, today this, and all this, so. I didn't have time to dig into some of these boxes today to make sure I get my stack of the reports that I receive and go through each one and make sure that I just didn't miss it, that was in there, or I'll go into Centerpoint, see what has been booked, make sure it's not a thing where they didn't send a report in, cause I do all those reports to make this little chart. So, I know it doesn't help a lot, but my explanation's like, well.
Do you know on 17, they had a gap and then October
Yeah,
they hit again? Do you think they just are kinda,
Well, I had
Behind.
contacted them and they were like, oh my gosh, I'll get caught up and here's this,
right,
and then,
but it could be they just might be behind like 24, or the other ones are.
yeah,
Just
they
have
just need to get,
The check hadn't shown up yet, it's in the mail.
they need to be pursued, if you will. Because if I'm thinking correctly, I think there was a kind of shakeup in some of those
Mhm.
there. Business split from them and
Mhm.
started new business, and I don't know, I don't think there's some controversy over there. Sometimes when that happens, I notice that the A&P gets whack wheels. I don't know, but we need to, I'm glad we're guys the collections because it really has been something that's been lacking.
Get a motion to approve the financials?
I make a motion, we approve.
Motion, do I get a second?
I'll second.
Second. All in favor? Alright. Grant request, Sebastian County Fairs, 2026 car show.
Are we not, or was Tom gonna give us an update, or,
Oh, okay.
huh?
I can give you an update of where you are, just right now.
Okay. Do
You
want
like
to do
it
that?
before you make decisions about?
Yeah.
Alright.
Up on the screen is where it will be. So you can see it. So the first thing on this is your historical. November actually includes three payers, about a little over $2,000 that came in and is actually being recorded as December 1st. But these were monies that came in just before the holiday, and it didn't get recorded until we returned back. Water office didn't supply those for deposit until December 1st, actually today, is when it went in. But they are included in this 16,000 number, so what you really received, actual physical cash on cash basis, was 14,000 compared to a normal 17,000. 16 is more kind of more in line, but not with what was happening in the past. There's a lot of late payers, and one of the things that's gonna happen is we're sending out a letter to all of the A&P vendors, all the people that are subjected to A&P. Bob and I are working on that. He's formulating what basically our procedure is gonna be. It's gonna have the teeth in it that it needs to be. We are gonna be looking for those penalties. We're gonna be assessing those penalties for late payers. We're gonna take away that, we're not going after it anymore. We are actually going to do that. We also are going to, give them courtesy calls and send information to them, or a notice to them about, hey, you're 1 week away from having to remit. Make sure you get that remittance to us on time. And we're also gonna talk about the liens that we will be putting on them. So it'll all be spelled out to them. They'll understand what our new procedure is gonna be going forward. I have a dedicated staff person that will be doing that, monitoring that, as the months go on, and keeping abreast of what basically, the lags are, and who are the lags, and we'll be able to give you that report, pretty much up to date, and involving also the collection effort. So you do see that these 3 months that are positive, August, September, and October, there was a lot of catch-up going on there. And that's what generated this 23,000 in November. There was some payments that came in that were basically October related, and August, September, and October. But in November for this year, 31% decline over the previous month, but you're down 5.49%. And that includes the 3 payers that paid for November in December. We just gave you credit back for it on this report. As far as your A&P tax year-to-date is concerned, for how your collections have been, this is a disheartening, I guess, from that perspective, is that there's a significant decline. It actually started occurring late in 2024. And then you're looking at the, that's the same slide. Oh, that's because I'm using this bad mouse. This one, it doesn't matter how you roll that ball, it goes wherever it wants to go, and that's why I don't usually use this when I'm doing mine. What you see in this advertising promotion 5-year trend over on this side, piece right here, this represents the last 13 months, and what you'll notice is that 10 of the 13 months are below the trend line, which are pulling that trend line down. That's a negative trend you want to reverse. You want something more like this, where there's growth, and you guys know better than anybody how your sales are going and whether there's growth or not. We just look at what the tax figures being reported and being remitted are. As far as your, historical trend, this historical trend shows basically the 11 months for all of the years 2018 through 25, and then the totals for the 11-month period comparatively. And then the percent change from year over previous year. So this is a 12% increase, 10% increase, 12% increase, and then you started to see the little bit of a decline after the COVID period, down to 9.5% growth, 5.31% growth. For 11 months now, we're up 6.65 in '24, but now we're down 5.49. So trend has been somewhat negative since 2022. As far as the projection for whether you're gonna make budget, no. I can tell you the one remaining month, you'd have to collect $37,000. I'm not sure you even have that in your accounts receivable yet, that much money that's past due. But that would mean everybody would have to catch up, plus you'd have to have a robust month. Because your average right now for that remaining month is 17,000. 11-month average, we did have some collections on past due balances. The 11-month average is 18. You'd have to collect 37 just to make this budget number of 236,000. You're not gonna do that. As far as the average collection unit to break even, you'd have to collect in the month of December 28,000 just to break even. Odds are you're gonna end up below budget, below a zero growth. You're gonna be negative growth. As far as the, I'll get into that. That's what you currently have in front of you. That's 6,153. We just added, one of the grants that have been closed out for that. That would be your 7,486 that you'd have in order to commit for grants right now, before you take into consideration any monies that have been received to date, which is available, but you'd have to be considering that money is before a commitment. If you're going still with the 45% commitment, that would have to come off of that before you would say you can now commit the remaining balance of that. So if you got 5,000 in, you're going to be able to give somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 to 3,000 of the 5,000, in addition to what you have available. So your receipts are very much down. And I do have budgets, numbers for next year, but we'll talk about that when we get to the budget.
Any questions?
I do want you to know, I have sent letters in the past, as you know, but I just haven't had the time to get on it.
Now, these letters that we're gonna be sending are gonna be talking about our procedure, what,
Yes.
so that no one can say they didn't know.
That's right. I didn't want anyone to
It's
say I
not
haven't
letters.
tried, you know.
It's not the past due letters, it's
Okay.
it's a letter saying from this point on, expect teeth.
You've been put on notice.
That's right.
Yeah.
Do you think you'll be able to get bite from some of these buildings with wheels as well as brick and mortar, or you think?
If they don't, then we'll have a piece of that action. There'll be a lien on them.
Because they're not producing a lot, but they're the ones that have the most, when you look at this, that's the most yellow is in those type of businesses right now. Not all of them.
What we've seen historically, when you place a tax lien like that, in most cases, you're not dealing with the sharpest businessman on the street, but what we'll see historically is that it has an effect when they go to do something else financially, whether it's a bank loan or whatever it may be, take care of their lease with their landlord, because a lot of landlords require them to be current on taxes, and they all of a sudden go, wait, you have a lien, we can't do whatever this is, and then they come running in going, oh, we've got to settle this. So that's where we probably would see an effect, is that we won't see the city or the Advertising Promotion Commission going to take possession of a restaurant. That's
Right.
not gonna happen. I tried to take possession of a hotel once, and it wouldn't let me. But I got my money.
I don't have anything more.
We good?
You good?
All right. Sebastian County Fair 2026 Greenwood Car Show. All right, the date's not on there. It is scheduled for 4/25. Given the financial state and the economy, I understand the financial burden, so we don't want to see this tradition die in Greenwood, just like trail lights. So we will do whatever we have to do with whatever you give us, and we'll work with the rest.
Is it still at the square, or is it?
Yes.
Okay.
It won't move from the square. We don't have enough pavement. They don't like to park on the grass. Correct.
They can't,
Especially that time of year. Now, if it was in the summer,
right.
they might.
I always know there's a good turnout for that, you know, and it's a big draw.
And we hope Pizza Barn will be open again because they really appreciated that last year.
Walking distance.
Yeah.
It's not much farther to walk to the other places, I'll say, but, you know, that's okay.
I
think it was the only Saturday he was open this year too.
Yeah, because he wasn't open the previous year for it.
Before the car show, he opened up that Saturday.
Well, I'll make a motion of 4,800 for now. You're free to come back next month if you want to be on the top of the list, and we can see if we have anything more we can give you then, or in 2 months at our next meeting.
Okay.
I think that's my motion.
I'll second that.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Would you like to be back on next month,
Or next
Put me
meeting,
in there and I'll let you know.
February?
I guess, yeah, February.
I will put you on.
South Sebastian County Historical Society 2026 airing of the quilts.
You will notice I'm not Ed Wilkinson. Ed's our president, but he couldn't be here today. He has been a little bit under the weather. Well, your numbers are sobering, and I come to you with great respect and thanks for whatever you can do for us. Can I approach you and leave you some samples of what we're requesting? A good deal of our
Thank
request
you.
is just for promotional materials. When we ask for catalog money, these are the catalogs, and you'll see on that first page inside, we do credit the A&P Commission. These are the little flyers that we put out in quilt shops across the three-state area. As far as we know, we are the only quilt show anywhere in the area that produces a catalog like this, and the ladies like it because their quilts are listed in there, and it's a nice keepsake for them.
Absolutely.
In addition to the advertising materials, we're seeking money, for the tents that we use for our expansion, and the scissor lift that we get from Cam Rentals.
And this is printed by a local vendor,
Calvert McBride,
Bob
that's as
Calvert.
local as we could get for that.
Yeah. Jane's nephew, Jane Rogers' nephew, Drusilla Huggard's nephew.
And they really work with us. The person that develops our catalog for us has a extended family health emergency, and they have agreed to edit that catalog at minimal cost to us since we won't have her input.
And this is actually at 4 different locations in town on the same day?
It's 3 different
3
locations. It's over 3 days. It's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. In early May, we're at the museum grounds, focusing on the cabin because we're talking about quilts. So we show vintage quilts there, and also in the schoolhouse and the barn. We're up at the Ed Wilkinson Pavilion. And one of the visitors' favorite locations is at Good Shepherd Presbyterian Church. We show vintage quilts there, some of them well over 150 years old, and the people love that. It's such a beautiful setting with the stained glass and the pews.
Where do y'all set up the tents at?
On the west side of the pavilion, on the concrete area, on the
that-
west side of the
Up there at the Ed
pavilion.
Wilson Pavilion?
Yes.
Okay.
Shame we don't have a trolley to take people around. all
We
locations.
we do have a trolley that take people around.
That worked out perfect.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, and they love that too. They flirt with the driver. It's a big hit.
Well, I mean, I think it's a great event. I think it's something we need to do. Unfortunately, right now, our finances are tight, but we are having another meeting in February. Would you be able to, you're okay if we put you on that and see if we can't work out something for you then?
Certainly, I would appreciate that.
So it's definitely
Be number
something we
2 on
want to
the list.
support, and right now, it's just, you kind of heard the numbers were a
Yeah.
little low, but it's definitely something we want to try to
I saw
help you out
that.
with.
We'll come back. Will you need a new submission, or can we just
No.
recycle this one?
Yeah.
Very good.
We need to have a vote to table that.
I'll make a motion that we table it till the
I'll
next
second
meeting.
that.
Second? All in
Thank
favor?
you.
Thank you very
We
much.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Greenwood Chamber of Commerce, Western Arkansas Mountain Frontier ad.
As y'all know, this is your ad that you do every year in the Western Mountain, Arkansas Mountain Frontier magazine. This is the state's sponsored tourism magazine that Parks and Tourism and the other state agencies distribute. I guess it's the only real printed advertisement that we do each year, and we've handled that for you all. I think the price stayed the same again this year. We redid the ad this year over the last couple of years, so I think it's pretty good ad. They're gonna print,
On the back page, or the.
yeah, the inside
of
back
the
page there,
side of the
yeah.
Back cover.
Yeah. Which is a premium position, I think it's an extra couple $100 for that positioning.
And you have the car show, the
Airing of the
crawfish
quilts.
festival, the airing of the quilts, all of that is listed on
Yeah,
there.
you know, that's the one thing that we have that gets out in the traveling public's hands, and they're mainly distributed through the welcome centers on the borders to the state that Parks and Tourism operates. So that's the main distribution. We distribute some of them here. And anybody that contacts them in Little Rock and asks about Western Arkansas, that's what they get.
On page 40 of the book, there's the Greenwood, and it lists some stuff that's going on. Do you put this content in here, or do they do it themselves, or?
Well, they ask us, and we
Okay.
give them content, and most of the time, they send it to us before it's printed, so we can proof it and make sure. We occasionally miss a date, or they occasionally run last year's date for something, but we don't have control, but we have input on it.
Okay.
They try to make it fair. They try to print editorial stories about each of the cities in the region, and they'll feature others more than this year than last year, but they try to do it as fairly as they can. And the board is local. The board is all, business people and representatives from the 5 counties here.
You know, where we put some of the photos of Greenwood?
Our photographer here is Ms. Derry, provides a lot of those.
I need to update and go around town and take some more.
I was just
And
wondering.
they also take the state photographers, as they go around and take photographs of different things in the state, so they use theirs as well.
Be nice if we could substitute every now and then for a photo, maybe a picture of our trail system, so people kind of had an idea where the trail is.
You mean it's the map?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we can do that. Yeah, we can do that. But
You got it in here as outdoor fun, trails,
Yeah.
multi-use lighted trails, circulating community. It may be a trails map
Yeah.
showing.
I think we could
Anything
we could
for-
either do it on our page that we own, or I could ask them if they've got a place to do it within the editorial content of the magazine.
It's just a thought.
Yeah, it was a good idea. But
And-
just let people know again what's
And the
available.
Park and Rec Commissioner's back there, and so is the Trails Committee Commissioner, so.
Yeah.
And Cinda's back there.
Yeah.
So,
See the who. But yeah, we've got the map, so it probably would have to be fairly small, but
yeah,
I noticed a couple of the other towns have QR codes too for some of their stuff. Could we look at putting that in there too, or is that gonna make the ad too busy?
we could, QR code. The thing about a QR code is you have to create the web page that the QR code leads you to.
Right.
So that's where your cost comes in, is creating a web page and hosting it, but I don't think it's very expensive. I think it's a few $100s.
That's it. I think we have one for restaurants, but we don't have one for.
Yeah, we
the
have one
city.
for restaurants, but we don't have one for, I will check into it and see. I don't think it's very expensive. I think we can get David Jamal to do it for us
When do
and create a QR code, and
When do
if-
you
if-
put this together?
I'm sorry,
When do you put it together?
January, mid-January.
So how about this? Could you just go to the Parks Commission meeting and show them what you got and see what they want in there? Because
Sure.
you're featuring a lot of parks.
Sure. Yeah, because that's what we have to feature mostly, so.
If they wanted a QR code of where you could scan it and you get the trail system, or a QR code of
Yeah.
where the neighborhood parks are, I think they would have the best
Sure.
ideas for what they want to
Y'all wanna work
represent.
on that? We can do that.
So,
And like I say, I know we can do it on that page that we own, but I think we can probably, if we provide stuff editorially, they're always happy to get extra things. So.
I'll make a motion, we approve the grant for 2592.
second it.
Motion and second, all in favor?
When do y'all meet next? 2 weeks. Okay, well, Charlotte sends me the notification, so if it's all right, I'll show up and we'll do that.
Contribution to the inclusive park.
Well, that's,
I'll go ahead and take my 0. But I also want to tell you guys that we applied for the state park outdoor recreation grant, and we received notice yesterday morning that they have granted us $494,000
Fantastic.
in a matching grant, so.
How close is that?
That gets us there. That, it's a 50-50 matching grant. So we'd have close to $1 million to build an inclusive park.
That's fantastic.
Good job.
excellent work.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly.
We can scratch you off permanently because you've been this recurring deal, right? I'm talking about the inclusive park, not parks.
So, discussion of revenues to the Parks Department.
I know we've tabled it a couple times. I don't think we can table it again, but without Mike here, it's,
I think we gotta table it without Mike being here.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been a very vocal
yeah.
advocate on this, and I think trying to make a vote on that without Mike being here is,
He did call me and say, I wish y'all would get that off the books. He had to work late, and he said, I could pass on what he said, my feelings were that I would like, they're going into budget, and being able to kind of budget for certain, what they know that they probably will get, it makes things a lot easier for planning, because you're always having to plan. And if they don't really know what they may get, they may not can budget for it. But like Mike had asked me to relay, he said, there's 2 things. I want y'all to get it off our deal, make a decision. And he said, and I wish that they would be more, what's the word? More accountable. He said they don't seem to want to be accountable, but just as long as they're accountable, and he said, I'm fine with whatever y'all decide. So,
What are, right now, our 2 choices, or leave it like it is, or go back to
The way it was.
request, by request only, except for Freedom Fest and Fall Festival? Is that right? Nope.
Go back to, come and ask for a grant, it's hard to plan for that,
Yeah.
number one. And your money wouldn't come in at the, you guys would have to make sure that the money would be available when it's due. The other thing would be that you would still get the 45% or whatever percentage.
Or change it, yeah.
But those are your two options. I would not recommend you set aside a specific fund. You do that, you can do that internally through a manual system, but not for any kind of a restricted account under the A&P Commission, because that's a separate off system.
Well, I mean, Mike and I have talked many times, I'm sure you guys have too, with Freedom Fest and the Fall Festival, something we have to insist on continuing. So if we had to fund that monthly to make sure it happens and just have it an auto withdrawal every month to make sure that happens, and then the other option would be anything other than that, they would have to come and request it. If it's a Boy Scout project or a movie in the park or whatever it might be, they have to come and ask and not just have the money out there.
Well, I that's where I was just disappointed in the Freedom Fest, you know, them knocking out the stuff during the day, because I look at the Freedom Fest was, you know, an all-day festival. It kind of kicked off with the run and the pancake breakfast at the Sonic Lodge, you know, and then transitioned into the to the festival there on the square all day, and you know, to me, you know, having that break in between the run, you know, and then say, oh, we're going to pick up around 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock, you know, it just, you know, that just didn't set well with me, you know, and then, and it was kind of odd that, you know, Casey said, well, he got a lot of feedback, the same people saying that it's too hot during that time of frame. And I'm thinking, you know, but then right after that, they presented another grant for things up there at Bell Park for a summer activity during that time frame, like from the 10 to 3 slot. And I thought, well, that's kind of odd there, that you're saying you're getting feedback, but then you're wanting to, you know, do another activity during that same time period. And I thought that was odd there. And that's where I really look at the festival being an all-day thing there. And, you know, I'd like to get, you know, either, you know, a commitment, you know, we're doing a commitment saying we're going to give, you know, them so much percentage, that we get a commitment from the park saying that we are going to try to make this, you know, return back to an all-day festival, because that's what it was, to me, designed to be. That's what it had been up until last year.
No, we're not gonna be extorted.
What's that?
No.
Can I speak? Sure. So I'd just like to address a couple comments. So yes, we did do the recreation camp from 9 to 3. That really was to, you know, it was for kids, and that's the time you do for kids, summer camps. We had indoor facilities, so where we could cool off, and the kids got breaks, and they were in the shade, and we did the water park, you know, the splash pad. So that was really, you know, a way to do that for the kids. So I don't think it's really fair to relate the two. You know, we did get a lot of feedback saying that having that break, there were people that said, you know, we missed the full day event, you know, why is this changed? You know, we like coming down, we couldn't do lunch there, you know, or something. But the most feedback we got was people were fine with it. There's so many, I think especially local people, that might do the run in the morning and then leave. And so if you look back the previous years at the numbers during those few hours, you know, say from 10 to 2, it's not a huge amount of people. So picking back up at 3, 4 o'clock was how we could save a little money, where we didn't think there was going to be a big impact. Now, could we maybe address, you know, picking up at 2 o'clock versus the 4 o'clock slot? Yes, I think so. But another concern that, you know, Casey has is that it's his staff that's working on July 4th, and they don't have that time with their families. And, you know, everybody wants the whole thing done, but nobody's willing to step up and volunteer. So I think if maybe we can come to an understanding of, you know, that we're going to have a committee that supports the Freedom Fest, and they're willing to take on that 10 to 2 slot, and they're going to volunteer so that Casey's staff can, spend some time with their families, maybe we could do that. I mean, and so I think there's a compromise there, but anyways.
Well, I think that's what, I looked at one aspect of the Parks Department is to rely on a volunteer staff. I mean, they have you volunteered for the kids' activity there at Bell Park and stuff. And I'm thinking, that we somehow, and I don't know exactly where it started, whether it started with Robert McKinney or later, but there was all of a sudden a movement away from saying, oh, we're not going to go out there and solicit volunteers like we used to and try to just do it all with paid staff. And sure, that's going to push everybody to the extreme, and stuff. And I think that we had adequate volunteers, but to me, that was one thing that the Freedom Fest committee did, was to go out and solicit the volunteers and to make this a big event. I don't know what any other kind of festival, that's around that where they don't solicit a good volunteer base, to do that. To me, there's all sorts of groups, but I think that is one aspect of the Parks Director is to, his predecessors, I guess our mayor did a very good job of going out there, and working with the volunteers and making it, an all-day thing. And I don't know why we have gone away from that, in trying to, solicit volunteers and go out there and try to, get groups to come here and help, with it, and truly make it, an all-day affair.
Well, I think that situation with volunteers that Casey inherited, Casey didn't inherit volunteers to help. Yeah, Casey inherited volunteers to give him ideas, but he didn't really inherit workers. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's my observation. You didn't inherit a bunch of guys on a committee that said, hey, we'll be out there setting stuff up. That stopped before Casey's time, is what I'm saying, just in his defense. But you're correct. With our event running with volunteers, you're one of them. But ours is not in the middle of the day. It's not as hard. It's early morning. I hate it, but that's how it has to be. We start at 5 o'clock. So we know we can get volunteers, but can we get volunteers in the middle of the day? I don't know. We ask, I guess, we try.
I can't get someone to dress up as Santa to be paid $50 an hour.
If I had to dress up as Santa on the 4th of July, you're gonna pay me a lot more than that.
I understand what you guys are saying, but our discussion isn't just about the Freedom Fest. It should be about money we're giving to the Parks Department. And for me, it bothers me when other people need money that we can't give them, and then we're giving a guaranteed amount to the Parks Department that maybe they should come and ask, just like all the other citizens do, for things that they want to do. They have funding from other places, not just us. So if we went back to, we're going to set aside $20,000 for the Freedom Fest, and although I understand what you're saying, AC, if we give him $20,000, it's for him to do it however he wants, unless we want to go sit on that committee and talk to them about what we think or volunteer on that. That's my opinion on it. But if we give them the $20,000 a year, and then the rest of it they have to come and ask for, they don't get a blanket check to do with what they want. And I think that was the big problem for a lot of us, was we were notified by email that we're cutting this for funding. That's what the post said, to save money. Not we're lacking volunteers, not that we need time for our family, was we're saving money, and we're sitting there thinking, we gave you all the money we always gave you. But there was no notification to us as to why. And that's what kind of set a lot of me and Mike and I think others apart, is you didn't even tell us. I mean, we still gave you the same amount of money, but somehow last year the Freedom Fest was, and I don't know what numbers you're talking about, but I was there and there was very few people, no vendors. There were, 10, 12 vendors? We used to have, look at the picture in the magazine. We had the square full.
Yeah.
What happened? Why did we lose all these people? It had to be something was done that people didn't want to come.
We didn't invite them.
We chose to limit the kind of booth that sold little tchotchkes and.
So the low numbers were because we didn't invite people to come and people didn't come to see them, or, what did we think people were going to do when they were here if there weren't vendors or?
We didn't invite the vendors, is what I'm saying.
Again, I'm not on your committee, so I can't comment on that part. But I think that's where a lot of us got kind of discouraged, that the money would, yeah, please.
Brandon Tate, 149 Pecan Lane. Do I need to tell you that kind of stuff?
No.
Okay, Chair. I am the chair of the Parks Committee. And some of the things that I'm concerned about is last year we had a budget. You gave us so much money, and we lived within that budget. Mr. Sam, is it Sammy? Sammy. He, at your last meeting, even said that the revenues that are coming in may even be lower this year, possibly, and the cost will go up. We have to live within our budget. Y'all give us so much money, we have to live within our budget. And one of the reasons that we chose to do that, the committee chose to do that, is to live within our budget. We don't have unlimited funds, and unfortunately, y'all don't have unlimited funds either. So if we came back and said, hey, we need another $40,000 because you want an all-day affair. You know, we just don't have, you don't have those resources, we don't have those resources either. I don't know where I'm going with all of this, but I'm just saying is that we're living within our budget. You gave us a budget to live within, and that's what we did. We lived within it. If you wanted to give us an unlimited budget where we can have an all-day affair and pay for everything, even the costs are going to go up. Your side has even said your costs are going up. I've talked to my brother, and he used to be in the industry with you guys. He was Don Tate and everything. And he just says that the cost of food going up, and people are just not going out as much, and is noticing that. And so there's not as much money coming into your program, so we have to live within our budget.
Well, that's
Okay.
indicative of what we see right up there. And
Yeah.
Tom
So-
sees it. We see it on these reports. So you got a very valid
Very
point right there.
And I know that we want to have an all-day affair. That's tradition, okay? And that's fine. Tradition is great, but we have to pay for it.
Why?
Why do we have to pay for it?
Yeah. Because I said, why can't you try to go out and get a volunteer base?
Well, but I'm saying,
Volunteers, how about going out and get sponsorships?
yes.
Getting some revenue.
But your
you get
question
sponsorships
is,
too.
so if we sent,
Many ways you can do this, it doesn't have to be full, you're not fully.
Yeah, we shouldn't have to
supported.
fully fund.
I just wanted you to know that.
Yeah.
The
That
entire,
total cost for a free event is costing the city's taxpayers,
Yeah.
because that's the money that is being used for this, anywhere from $150 to $180. $150 to $180,000 to put on an all-day event is what it was costing you. Now, your contribution to that highest was 80. You're contributing now, what, 55,000? 55,000 comes from you, the rest comes from the city coffers, and to the extent that the Parks Commission and Parks Department can cover it, their city sales and use tax covers anything that runs over from what you don't contribute in your 45, because they have other commitments for that money that was granted to them through the parks 45% use it. And by the way, remember, they're not accountable to you for it. If they do it, they're doing it only as a courtesy to you. When you give them that money, as it's been said many times, Sid is a very, very big proponent of this. Parks innately brings people to the city. That's what your promotion is designed to do. So any money you give to parks is monies that are going back to the city in return for the amenities that they are providing. That's just the nature of the beast. Every city has that mindset.
and also,
I will tell you though, that the monies that are being returned back to the city fare well, because the parks are open 365 days a year, and people come here and grab a bite on their way out. You know, we can't measure that, but I can tell you, that's why the law was designed the way it was, and why the city council passed the baton back to them, saying that monies that you give to them is monies well spent. And I will also tell you, and it's up to them to spend it responsibly, we at this juncture cannot have rhetoric out there that you don't trust the Parks Department with their money, especially in this time when we're out there trying to promote a extension of a tax. You have to trust them. They're doing exactly what they need to do in order to provide a good quality event. But in essence, no one says that's a parks event. They say it's a city event. And it is a city event. So if they don't handle it, it's going to be handled by the city. It has to go back to the general management. It has to be part of the city's coffers, the unrestricted general fund. To the extent that you can help defray some of that expense, because right now, the fireworks are all on them and all the salaries for the staff that has to work on that day comes out of that expense. So, I mean, what are we doing? You know, I don't understand this. We should have ended this discussion months ago. This should never be to the position that we're in right now.
And also, I'd like to point out, our budget is open to you at any time. We are not hiding anything. You can look at our budget. Tom keeps an eye on our budget for us. He can show it to you. He can tell you how we are spending our money. I can tell you that we're having I don't know if it's going to come out of A&P money or not, but we have a Boy Scout who wants to build a trail. And they would use, I don't know if we're using A&P money, but they would use rock. You know, he's going to buy $90 worth of rock, something like $900 worth of rock and everything. And that would be a trail that could bring people into our city to use. Our budget is not, we're not hiding anything. You have access to that. Tom can show it to you. And I think Tom was going to show it to you. It showed it in Casey and everything.
I mean, I got copies of it already. From
Yeah, so
Charlotte's email.
we are
It's
not
it's
trying,
secretive.
we are not hiding anything from
But I
you.
also think
But
that,
That's-
I just
don't think
I
that's
just
in
want
the
you to know,
application At all, that the Parks Department is hiding anything from you.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to the intent of where we wanted that funding to go. You know,
Okay.
it was always, the big part of what we did for the Parks Department had always been Freedom Fest, but
Mhm.
now it's getting diverted to, you know, a kids camp. Do we have the numbers? Do we have the numbers on that?
is it going?
Is that not,
No.
did that not come from Mars? Okay, so it
No.
didn't come from Mars.
So, no.
Please do not
So-
incorporate. That
Okay.
was all
Gotcha.
raised by
Right.
tuition
Okay.
and by
but,
sponsorship.
Yeah.
and in the, but, I mean, there's $10,000 in Boy Scout projects in 2024, according to this. Now, I'm not saying that the Boy Scouts don't need 10,000, but part of the Boy Scout why can't the Boy Scout come here, ask for the money, and learn a little something out of how the government works rather than just go to the Parks Department and say, here's your money, do it. And that's where I'm just thinking, I think some of this money could be kept here and still given to the Parks Department, but upon request from certain people, not just give it to them. I just think the amount should be less than 45%. I know,
But I just want you to know, we are trying to live within my thing is we are living within our budget, and if you we're not trying to hide anything or anything. Y'all have access to that at any time to see how we are spending parks or A&P money. So that's where I'm coming from.
Okay.
And we're trying to live within our budget. And I know that volunteers, we can go out. But also, let me just ask this question. At some point, do our community, our businesses get tired of there's a lot of money? If your money's tight, too, you don't have enough to give out to other things. So I'm just saying that things are getting more expensive, and we're trying to live within our budget and be good stewards of what is given to us. And it may not always fit everybody's agenda or anything. It may changes. I'm afraid moving your cheese. I don't know if y'all ever read that book, Who Moved My Cheese?
Yes,
Okay, it is hard.
it's a great book.
It is. So that's my
I think,
point.
and I'm
Thank you.
not speaking, thank you very much for that, a lot of great points. I'm not speaking for anybody else. I think the perception, from my limited knowledge, is that some of the projects that are being funded we'll just fund it. I think some of the people on this board would like to see more come and ask for instead of a blank check. If an Eagle Scout needs $2,500 to get his, Super Eagle badge, which I'm not a Boy Scout person, so, don't beat me up on that. But instead of that being funded just with a blank check, I think people would rather say, hey, let's look at this and see if this is a A&P funded project or if this needs to be an individually funded project. If little Johnny needs to go to Gino's Pizza and ask for $200 and needs to go to Kentucky Fried Chicken and ask for $200 instead of it just being a blank check and then somebody going, why did we spend $2,500 so that little Johnny could get a, superstar badge? Why is that?
Well, what he's doing is benefiting the city. I mean, they're not just going out there for their own esteem
No.
and self-worth. They're going out there to give something back to the city on a trail. Please think about what it is they're doing.
100% agree. All I'm saying is I just think the perception is that they would, some people would rather give permission for that money to be spent instead of forgiveness. That's my impression. I'm not speaking for anybody else. I just feel like that's part of the gap between if we give the 45 and then people don't feel like they're getting that some of that 45 was given.
Okay, look up at the screen. What you see up at the screen, and you get this every single December. You know exactly what Parks Commission has already approved and have in their Parks A&P grant budget. And they are driven by what projected revenues are there. I'm going to show you how that projection comes about. So in the past year, they had projected $106,000 in revenues that were supposed to come in based on what you guys told me was the percentage of increase you anticipated having. Because you're the experts in that.
Easy now.
You're budgeting that percentage for your own entities. That's why I'm saying.
I'll take a disclaimer on the expert part.
But anyway, this $96,000 right now is what we're projecting flat. Whatever we got this year, it's going over to next year. And they run a month behind because the dollar amounts you collect in December, while that's on your books for 25, that becomes the percentage allocation in 26 January for them. So that would be their first payment for January. So any monies that is not paid that should have been paid for November and earlier that gets put into December's coffers robbed them of the 45% they could have had towards their budget, which hurts them in what they had budgeted as their expenses. You get a detail of exactly how much money from that $96,000, which this would have been their 26 budget, they plan on spending. It's neutral to the extent, ooh, it went backwards. Oh, boo.
There's that mouse again.
I know, it's terrible. So I'm gonna do this.
Looks like temperature's gonna rise on
All
Saturday.
right, so, I'll just use the arrow keys. So what you have there is the public relations. They're saying a Fall Fest, they're gonna dedicate of that $63,000 because that's the money you give them. I mean, all they're doing is taking the 45% and they're apportioning it out. They don't know exactly how many balloons, blow-ups they're gonna have in Freedom Fest or the Fall Festival. It depends on how much money they have available as to what they can afford to put there and how long they can run the event and how much the city's willing to kick back in because they have to consider what their financial stress is on their other revenue streams that they control and other budgets. So they put $51,000 in there for Freedom Fest and they have this Arkansas grant project for Bell Park. I can't speak to that.
So the Bell Park Trail thing.
That's the trail thing for the Bell Park. And then the Scout projects was $6,000 for this year. So you see exactly what they put there. They can't get into the minutia detail because that's gonna depend on, number one, how much revenue comes in. And it also depends on what the committees are deciding that they need, but they have to live within that budget. You see it. It's as transparent as they can get right now. So you can't say you didn't know and they're not telling you. They are telling you. It's right there.
No, I think that they up till last year or this year, you know, it was always Freedom Fest was always an all-day
But that's
festival.
that has nothing to do with them and the money. That has to do with something that's easily fixable in the future. But to say we're gonna withhold your money because we don't think you're appropriately using it is an unfair and unreasonable argument to this. That's what I'm saying.
Well,
Now, if
we
you-
ask every other group that comes up here to us to give us
if you
a
wanna
detailed
do
thing.
that, they'll be more than willing to turn every bit of this back over to you. And they'll say, we're not doing these events. It's a city event. The city wants to do it. They can come to you for asking every time they want something, and then you guys grant it out. That's fine. I don't care. That's the way it can go. But there's nothing that says they have to do this. So what you would lose would be those three programs. Speak up if I'm talking out of line here. I've had many conversations with them. That's their sentiment. As far as doing this, they are at risk financially in order to make up any shortfalls. And if you want to make it to where it's an all-day event, then get on that committee and make it happen. It can happen, but you don't fund all of it. And the law says, the law that you guys and the state of Arkansas put out there through that ordinance says that when you give that money to them, that's as transparent as it has to be. You're trusting them to do what they do best in that commission, and that is spend that money for the betterment of the parks and recreations here in the city to bring people to the city of Greenwood and to enjoy the amenities that you guys help them afford. So it's as simple as that.
We're actually lucky that we pared things down this year and made a concerted effort to come in under budget on those events, because if you look at that screen, we have $31,415 left in the coffers right now, and that I canned a project that was for $31,500. So we would have been $85 over budget had we proceeded with that $31,500 project. That's coming in under budget on every event.
So I think we have three options, and I wish we'd pick an option
I agree.
and go on. So option one would be just leave things the way they are. Let 45%, let them go on. I don't know if that's appealing to y'all. An option two would be maybe reduce it to 25%, give them some money and let them go on and come back with the extras to us. And option three would be, let's just treat them like everybody else. They just come with a grant for the things they want to do, and you say yes or no, and you can hold them accountable for that. Wish y'all would pick one of the three options and let's move on.
I vote for option one,
That's leaving it the same.
leaving it just the way it is. If Casey could be a little bit more, you know, hey, little Johnny, I know we want to give you $500, but I'm going to give you $200, and I want you to go before the A&P Commission, and I want you to ask for the other $300, and I think that will help make.
That's just gonna take more money from what's left of the 45% that we wanna give to other people. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I kind of feel like if we're gonna leave it option one, all I would ask for is, does it hurt for you guys to come every once in a while and tell us what you're doing? Have a Boy Scout come and explain his project and just let us know, hey, this is what we did, thanks for the money. Not that we need the thanks, but then we kind of have an idea of what is the $6,000 Boy Scout project look like. I didn't walk down the trail, so I don't know what it looks like, but it'd be neat for them to come and show us their work, and it would teach them some skills of getting up in front of people and having to talk.
That goes back to what I was just saying, just a little bit more transparency.
Yeah, but they can't ask for more money
Yeah,
because
I mean,
it
Or
would just be for them
accountability.
to tell us about it. What, sorry.
I just had a question. So 45% is what the parks get. Does that include, wasn't there another $20,000 given to service debt?
That was a separate requested grant.
Okay, so what does that actually bring their percentage to?
Well, for 5 years of putting it up, you're right, but that grant is not covered by this
Right.
45%. They're obligated to that regardless.
No, I understand, but what would that look like? Is that 50% of the budget for this year?
You have to add
60%?
20,000 to 90,000, that's 100,000 of whatever
So it'd,
50-something%.
it'd be getting a couple percent higher, but maybe not 50, probably around 48 or 49.
Yeah.
Because we're probably about 48 or 49. You're not helping the parks argument, but.
Per year.
Per year.
5 years.
It'd be more than a
And it's little things we've done that have kind of stressed this group because we've added that debt service, then you got declining revenues, and then when you come in, we don't have enough money to do what you want done, and you're facing this group, and we're wanting to do what you want done, and we're scraping and clawing, trying to claw money and saying, we're gonna give you a piece here, come back. And then they're wondering, what's the parks doing? I mean, what are they doing at that 45%? They're doing things we don't want them to do. And that's what's causing stress with these guys. The declining revenues have exacerbated it. And you're correct, the exacerbation's also that we did give them another grant. We're servicing debt on the splash pad. So it is,
But that's separate and apart from this.
right.
That was a legitimate grant that they came and asked for, and they gave it to them aside from this.
Can you vote on this, or you happen to be?
No, I can't vote on it. Because I'm not voting on anything today. So
Okay.
it's,
Mike McAllister, I talked to him earlier, and he said he just defers to whatever the rest of the board members want to do. He didn't know.
Well, the easy thing is to second his 45 and just let it go, but,
You, at this point, you can say, I don't want the scout projects in there because I would like them to come before us. That's fine, you can tell them, I don't think that's something that.
well,
we
but then,
would-
then they get into the, I gave you money and now I can't dictate to you what you do with the money. If you want to let the scouts do it, that's fine. I mean, you know, and I'm not picking on the scouts. I was from Troop 54 in Greenwood. I'm not against the scouts. I just, you know,
but then you can also say, though, if we're still doing the 45% and we're saying exclude X, Y, and Z and have them come to us, then you're not only giving the parks.
the 45%, you're taking
giving
more
the
away.
additional from
Right.
that.
And
Them
I'll,
directing someone else to come in.
You could say 45% for, city events.
right. I think Rod said it best. It's just frustrating for us not to be able to give. I mean, when we don't want the money. We don't want a budget, or, you know, we don't want any money left in the bank after every month. But now it's getting to where we don't have money to give people. And then I feel like we're not getting communication from the Parks Department as to what they are doing with their 45%. They're just taking it and saying, go. And I feel like they could be a little more open about what they're doing.
So we could calculate what their percentage need is based on this budget. Right now, they're budgeting those events,
Mhm.
take out the capital improvement projects. They're budgeting those events based on what your 45%
45%.
would give them on a projected
Mhm.
basis. Okay, so we could say, what would a full day Freedom Fest projected run? I don't know, probably about 25,000 more than that on the low side.
Easily 65 if you just bare bones it.
65,000? So then you have to look at Christmas in the park, and so you're gonna have to be able to say, for us to do what you're asking us to do, we need the funds. And if we can't get it all from you, then we have to get it from somebody else, or we look at sponsorships, we look at volunteers, we look at another way to approach it. But don't be mad, don't hold them to the fire because you didn't like one event.
Well, I'm not.
There's ways around that, that's what I'm saying. There's ways to solve that problem, and it doesn't have to be through punishment. And it doesn't have to be through negative rhetoric that would get out there that could have a negative impact on our ability to get this thing passed. If we don't get this thing passed, there is no Parks Department. What's in the best interest of the citizens as far as the parks is related, as far as where your money gets the best return? You need to look at what kind of a return you get on that 45%, just like you need to be looking at all the money you give out to these people that are coming in here for grants and say, well, we're gonna give you the money because you're first up there, but everybody else we're gonna have to postpone. You should be looking at divvying out money based on an economic value added. What's your biggest return on that money? Is it a one-day event? Is it a 6-day event? Is it a 5-day event? Is it a 3-day event? What's gonna bring more draw to the city? And that's where your money needs to be spent, on what gives you the biggest return on that dollar.
that's where, you know, some of the issue comes into is so, you know, the fairgrounds will come to us for, you know, the car show. And, you know, they change something that we don't like and the numbers aren't there. We can take a look at that grant when he comes back the next year and say, hey, you know we've always given you X amount. It's like, but it was down a little bit this year. Kind of, what were the reasons behind that? Did you do anything different? Is it just an off year? What's the deal? And we can make a decision to fund that at the requested level or not. Whereas with the way we're set up right now, it's a blanket 45%, and without them coming back to us going, hey, you know, last year's Freedom Fest, we tried something different. The numbers weren't there. We want to give it another shot. You know, so we're going to come to y'all for, you know, $50,000 instead of, you know, $60,000, and see if we can get those numbers up. See if we can, you know, make this work on the half day that we did. We don't have that ability to do that, as you know, and our job is to be stewards of the taxpayers' dollars and make sure that we get that return on investment.
Just make sure you do that stewardship to all of the grants.
Yeah, and I think for the most part we do. We have those conversations up here with the grantee, with the grant requesters as they come in on an individual grant basis. Like, hey, you know, Area of the Quilts. They come in every year. They ask for the same thing, and if they have an off year, if things aren't kind of what we think they should be, you know, we have those discussions, and we can change the grant amount depending on that.
Right, that's what.
I think that's the
By design, that's how that works.
yeah, that's the intent of it, and when you give that blank 45%, kind of it was kind of done in the name of convenience. So they wouldn't come. So we wouldn't see Casey, or we wouldn't see Doug, or we wouldn't see whoever else, you know, Tammy, whoever else was running the parks department at that time, 3 or 4 times a meeting. You know, oh, I've got, so I'm here for Freedom Fest today, but also need to talk to you about Fall Fest, and then we've got some scout projects. So we just decided at the time, it's like in the name of convenience, let's just do a one-time thing, knock it out, and they've got this money to do it. So.
No, that's not how that argument actually transpired. It was Richard McKinney that, when he was here, that changed that, because he kept coming, and then it was a cash flow issue. There wasn't they were having to really push back and plan to get the money for you guys to be able to hand it out, because you were in the process of still doing commitments as well. And the whole argument was that this is ineffective and inefficient. It was a very inefficient method of doing it, and the discussion was not should we give you a percentage, it's what should the percentage be. That was the biggest talking point. And so one wanted 55, is down to 35, you settled on 45. That number is not hard set in stone. You can modify that.
Was it always, I don't remember what the original, has it always been 45?
45 since the first day.
Since the first day?
Yeah.
See, I think, I don't have a problem with 45. I mean, if I'm Casey, I'm thinking, this is a get out of jail free card for me. I can tell people that, hey, I want you to go before the board before we grant this. I want everybody to be on the same page. The board gets to see some of the questionable projects, and I say questionable in quotation marks there, just because you also then give some of these younger people an opportunity to see how it all works. Because for me, when these young people come up, man, that's gold. These kids are learning, okay, that kid that comes up and asks for the money for the candy, they're never going to forget being in front of this committee. It's great learning opportunity. So, I don't know. I may be in the minority. I haven't been on this board as long as the rest of them, but like I said, I don't have a problem with 45. I just think that more transparency, the better. So, anyway, I make a motion that we keep it at 45 and go from there.
Second?
We're happy to take the 25.
Do what?
We're happy to take 25.
But see, this is the rhetoric that's causing the problems that you're so,
I'm not trying to,
I mean, but you are.
Yeah,
So,
that's a kind of take your ball and go home.
I mean,
kind of comment.
but you are. Let one of the A&P people deal with it. I'll just take my money and
Yeah.
go.
I mean, 'cause the response is that we could go down to zero and do that on any capital projects and then have it come in on each meeting at that time as well.
That's not,
I mean, all we're saying, I mean, all we're saying is, when you got, would it hurt for you to come once a quarter and tell us, hey, this is what we've done with your money, and present it to us?
I've done that for the past 2 years. You had line item, you had every.
I
line
haven't
item
seen a
of-
scout come in here once.
You had every line item. of-
Oh, I know we have it on paper.
Okay, and I apologize for that mistake.
No, I don't think it's a mistake. Well, I think that's just kind of the idea we're talking about.
For the oversight, I guess.
No, I mean, just, we're asking for that for the next year.
It was my understanding that that's how it was done in the past. The scouts would come to the
Mhm.
Parks Commission and explain what their project was, or just come to me and I would explain it to the Parks Commission. So I don't have a problem having a scout come in here. I don't have a problem with that at all.
Hey, I'm listening to you three, cause y'all collect and remit the taxes and see what the taxes do. Me and AC, we're just here because of state law, you know, where you have to have two people for the governing body. I think y'all are the meat and potatoes of the group. So I'm not, you know, I would like to quickly second your motion, Sammy, but I'm trying to wait on these two guys. But it does seem like there's this recurring deal of the scouts, so if,
Not just the scouts.
So if
That's
you
just
took-
what's up there,
so
$6,000.
there's if that $6,000 is this huge sticking
It's not.
point out of the $99,000, let's eliminate that, lower it to 40%, let them budget that 40% without that 6,000, and they can just turn those guys back to us, like they always kind of have if they didn't have the money. Just way back in the conversation, we're like, you know, these guys are always coming to us, and they go to the parks first because they're having to do it through parks. Then they come to us. Just let parks handle it. It's just let them have their $1,000 for gravel and their $2,500 for 2x4s and paint brushes and all that, and they're doing things that are improving the community that are long lasting. I mean, if you look, you know, this is the first year I think, and I didn't look. There's pictures that are in here are usually scout projects.
Yeah.
Pavilions, trails, all that, that's what they're using to attract people to it. So, Sammy, maybe you could amend it to 40% and let them focus on, let them take the scout projects out of that 2026 budget, and they'll just send them straight to us if that's the sticking point.
Well, no, I don't think that's the sticking point. I think it's that even when the scouts projects come and they present them, they have a detailed of what they're going to do with that project, with the money. You know, they said, yeah, this much is for gravel, this much is for 2x4s. We're building a bridge over, you know, this creek and stuff. It's all detailed, and I think that's just kind of what, you know, last year, you know, we were on the basis of, you know, saying, yes, you have, up there it says, Fall Festival, 6,000, Christmas in the Park, 6,800, Freedom Fest, 51,000. And we were under the impression when it said Freedom Fest, 51,000 last year, or whatever the amount was, that it was a all-day festival like it has been
Because we
every year
would
prior
get-
to that.
We would get when it would come in as an individual grant request, it would have, you know, bounce arounds rented from
Make a motion.
9 to 7, or whenever. Tents from this time to this time. These are the this is who's doing the music from this time to this time to this time. So we had that more drilled down into, this is what that 51,000 is being spent on. And this is how long you're going to get out of that. If it, you know, not to get hung up on last year, but, you know, had it come in as a grant last year, we could have seen on the front end, you know, when they came to us in January or February or whenever to start requesting that money, like, hey, we're expecting to, you know, stuff to be more expensive. We're expecting our budget to not be stretched as far. So we're looking at doing the bounce houses from this time to this time to cut back. We're looking at, you know, not having music. We're not renting tents because we don't want to invite vendors. We could have those conversations. Well, hey, you know, would bumping the amount now? You know, is there anything that we could do? Or is this just the way it's gonna have to be this year? And so we have some kind of preparation and expectation going into it of what the money we set aside, what they're able to get with it. And we can evaluate, is it possible to do more, or is this just gonna be the way that it is? You know, I think that's the benefit and the value added in having them come before us with the individual grant request on some of these, even the big ticket ones, so we can see where that money is going to make sure that it's going to those things that A&P, and just to go on the record, I don't think anyone's picking one and singling out the scouts. It's just one of the things that's up there. I mean, it could be, you know, it could be anything that, you know, where you could just swap the $6,000
Movies in
out
the
for
park.
the Fall Fest. It's like, well, do we get as many people coming into town for Fall Fest as we would if that $6,000 had been spent, you know, $57,000 for Freedom Fest? Would we have more people in town with that and just drop the Fall Fest altogether? So I don't think it's picking on specifically the scouts in general. You know, I don't think anyone has a problem with that, and I don't think there's anyone up here that would discount anything that they've done and contributed to this community in the different parks or anything like that.
Chris, I have a point of order. I think he made a motion, but I never heard a second. Do we need to acknowledge that died for lack of second, or?
No, I think we're still
So he
discussion.
made the motion.
I'll make a motion of 40%.
Well, we
He's
finished
already
his.
got a motion.
Okay.
That's what I'm addressing is,
So-
Sammy had a motion to continue the 45%.
So we don't have a second on the 45%, so,
So it died for lack of motion, okay.
okay.
I'll make a motion of 40%.
So 40%,
I'll second it.
the second on that. All in favor?
Unanimous?
Motion carries.
Now we can move on
Now we can move on.
to your budget.
The fun, easy stuff. 2026 budget discussion.
These are your actuals up on the screen for 2025, anything with an A. The December is still an estimate. That is the number from last year. That's why that's up there. It's just a placeholder. So given that you come close to that or hit that projection, you would be at about 215,000. I anticipate this number being a little higher, primarily because of what we know happened today with the past dues that have been, or the late pays that have come in. So you're looking at probably a little higher than 215, maybe 218, 220 maybe. But I am not projecting any growth. I'm projecting it to be flat. That is solely up to you. I always, every year say, you tell me the number. Are you expecting growth? Are you not? What's your appetite for risk as far as this is concerned? And I'm looking to you guys who are in the industry. Because you, maybe you're not, but I assume.
Well,
you're the
unfortunately,
expert.
we're always projecting growth, otherwise we're not in business, so, the new restaurant that's coming to town, that's gonna add to it, but it's also taking out of the same pool.
Yeah, it's gonna take from the same pool, but it'll
But
increase
it-
a little bit.
The growth number, the big number is not gonna change that much.
No.
It's just gonna be, the pie is gonna get divvied up even more. I mean,
New restaurant doesn't create any more meals. It,
doesn't create any more people.
you know, if it's something drastically different, it
Yeah.
might bring in
Pizza-
some more.
The pizza stays the same size, you're just slicing it in.
Absolutely, I agree 100%.
So,
So would you rather under project and over deliver?
Absolutely.
hey, Casey, on that, and we kinda talked about that after the last meeting. When we set like 45%, y'all are looking at not 45% of what we actually collect, but like 45% of what our budget going into that next year is. So if we're down at, so if we're at 40% for next year, what y'all are looking at for y'all's planning purposes is 40% of whatever number we
Whatever we
say right
correct.
here. Okay.
Right, so I'll actually show you that, because you're tied into what that budget is. So I just wanted to get this set. So you're set, you're okay with zero, you don't wanna do a decrease or any of that, you wanna stay flat, correct?
We decreased from 24, is that correct?
You're down,
Not, I mean, not
5%.
based on what, I know there's what our budget was, we thought it would be this, but,
We're down 5%.
so we're down
down
5.
more than
5% year to date.
5.93.
Last year, you were down 9%
I'm fine with flat. I don't know another decrease. I hope another decrease doesn't hit. I mean,
I think you go with flat and say a prayer.
Okay, so then this is what happens on the side of how it goes to Parks. So Parks doesn't get the monies in the same month. They get a percentage based on the previous month. So December's number is what you see up here as January's number. Whatever this number ends up, then that would be what is used to calculate the 45. This now will say 40 when we
Right.
go back into the budget and change it. And this becomes the number that they're gonna have populate in their A&P budget. And then they will reassess how they want to look at, divvying that up by the activities that they, deem would get the biggest return, biggest bang for the buck back to the city. So that's how that works. So these numbers fall in 1 month later, so that their full year is one of the previous year and then 11 of the current. Which is why anything that comes in, this right here was very impactful to them for this year. Because that's not a true number based on non-current. So that's why we're taking over collections on this to kind of beef that up, so that this doesn't happen. And then when you have these meetings, you have the money to be able to give to these requesters. So that's how that works, and I wanted to show you yours, how that flows in. This is your A&P budget. The 215,516, that's just a placeholder right now. At the end of December, that will become a true number. And then what will happen is the numbers that projects down here to the transfer to Parks, that will say 40, and that number will decrease, and that will increase the amount that you have to distribute. Interestingly enough, this will always end up being 0. Because what you say, and you said it today, that your goal is the money you get in, you give out. Okay, so that's why it's always 0. Well, this year, you've given out 30,000 more than you've brought in. You had 58 to start, 30,000, you're at 28. That's with taking into consideration 15,000 of, this was before we adjusted the commitment. We didn't have in this number the 6,300 that was given to the Parks today from the 14,000 that you collected in November. So if I were to adjust that, this number goes back down to the 6, which is what you distributed.
Which is what we had, yeah.
And that's how the budgeting is done. It's very simple. Yours is really easy to do. One of the things, though, that you notice is this advertising and publication. This, I'm assuming it's in that 15,000, right, Charlotte?
Say again?
The 12,000 advertising and publication, there's nothing, we haven't spent anything on it yet.
We actually have, are you talking about the billboard?
Whatever you've got in that.
That's that
advertising.
billboard, and yes, we spent,
So what do you have in the award grants?
yeah, it's in with those grants.
Well,
Outstanding
it's
grants.
isolated in our budget. It should have been, remember, we pulled that out because that's a recurring.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's in the expenses and the available.
Well, okay,
Yeah.
that's what I didn't know,
Yeah.
because on my
It's in there.
financials, it's not listed there. So I was making sure that there's not 12,000 still coming.
Well, before we had, I had asked about that, because I said, it's really not a grant, it's something they spend.
Right.
And so,
And we budgeted
and
it.
then, so we put it in a different line, right, for advertising.
Right.
So, but I still do include it in the financial report as like an outstanding grant sort of thing. Is that what mentioned?
I was.
And this year, we're down to 9230 from 12,000.
Correct, but is it just not coded in the right account?
I think I've been incorrectly using awarded grants, I bet.
Because you're seeing.
Because it was that way for a while, and then we switched.
Where was that, we're not considering $12,000. So,
That may have to be looked at.
so there's your budget right there. That's yours as of today, as of 12/2.
Okay.
This is your actual, this would be your projected budget. You modify that, give you a little bit more.
And so while we did run a $30,000 deficit, it's really because we were really trying to decrease the balance, because we really shouldn't be carrying a substantial balance.
Yeah, there's no problem, you're still solving. I mean, I just wanted you to know, your spend was more because you had a balance carried over. So, if you're good with that, I'll make those changes. Do we have to vote on that?
Yeah, they should vote to approve that budget as discussed.
I make a motion to approve it.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Motion carries. Adoption of 2026 meeting calendar.
I mean, pretty simple, just, prepare that every year, for you.
I make a motion, we approve it.
Second?
Second.
Who seconded that?
I did.
Okay.
All in favor? Motion carries. Commission comments?
If you guys, Parks Department, if you have stuff that comes up that you can't budget because of the change, by all means, you can send them here. We can visit with them, and if it's something we can do, then we can do that. I don't want anything to not happen that we need to happen. I sure don't want the Boy Scouts not to be able to do a project because of our decision, but I don't think it would hurt for them to stand up here and ask for the money and see what we can do to help them. So if you guys are okay with that, I think that would be helpful. So.
Any other comments?
I've got a comment. Y'all really kind of bashed the Scouts. And really, you're paying for paintbrushes, concrete sacks, and 2x4s. You're attacking a volunteer system. If you continually attack a volunteer system and make it so onerous to help
I'm
them,
not
they'll quit
attacking the
coming.
Scouts.
Absolutely not.
I am not attacking the Scouts, for the
That was
record.
just
I
one
mean,
of the three things that was up on.
I
the
don't know anything about it. It was one of the things
It's on the
that
screen.
people commented.
So we got $99,000 they were budgeting in 26. 6,000 was to support scout projects. So the rest of that 93,000, half of it, we pull up in the square on July 4th and throw a match to it. We watch $50,000 burn up in like 15 minutes, but you're attacking volunteers that build things that last for years and attract people to our town.
I'm not attacking anybody. I have the utmost envy for those kids that go out and try to do whatever they can to earn different levels of merit and grow and do things that me personally, I could never do. So
We had a lady that's running for state senate last night. She come and sat here, Stacy Smith, and she had 3 kids in our scout troop. And she used to volunteer over here at the recycling center. She volunteered for years, every Saturday. She had 3 kids in Scout Troop 54, and they did projects out on the trail. They did projects up in Bell Park, and they've extended our trail immensely. They've improved Bell Park, and I said, they have officially logged hundreds, if not thousands of hours of volunteer work.
yeah,
And all their projects were paid for by the A&P Commission. And it is noted on their plaques. And that is a really, really good use of our money,
I agree.
because all you're doing is paying for just paintbrushes, nails, screws, 2x4s. That is a great use of our money. It's a
Totally.
great use of the parks money.
Totally agree.
And I support the parks. I think the Parks Commission, he said committee, but it's a commission, they do an excellent job with what money they have. Now, what we've given them, we've reduced them by 5%. So if you're unhappy that the Freedom Fest was smaller, it's probably going to be about 5% smaller than it was, because that's what we've given them to work with. But I do appreciate that we are continually to fund them so they have the ability to budget, because we are now going into budget. And if we took that away from them, they're going to scrap it, which meant and if we went back to the grant system, the first meeting in January, they're going to show up with a grant for $51,000. And what are we going to do with that grant for $51,000? We're going to have to spread it all out.
Gonna have to push them back 2
Which
months and say, come back. And
Turns
yes.
right back into the conversation of, let's just give them a percentage, and that way we get them away from us. So I I think,
They carry the cash flow.
and some of
100%
these,
agree.
some of
And I
these
think that's what makes it part of
frustrations,
this difficult conversation as well.
I'm probably responsible because I did push and push for the debt service on the splash pad, so we'd be part of it. And I think that put us into a bad position with fairs and everybody else that's coming that we're having to kind of cut back in the quilts, and it's put us in a bad position with them. And hey, that, the quilt festival's been going on since the inception of the A&P, and it's an awesome deal, and that is my neighbor, and I really wish she would have left tonight with all of her money. And so I am part of that frustration.
I
But
like her chances of getting it.
I like her chances of getting it too, so.
And I think having him help with finances and going to get them will help us a little bit more too. But yeah, that to me is just the frustrating part. I have no problem with the Parks Department. I mean, I don't volunteer. I probably should volunteer, but I don't. I do come. I enjoy being there, and I appreciate those who are there volunteering. I understand that. But I just wish we had more money for other people. It just seems like everything is going to the Parks Department, and it's like, when I talk to people, I want to be able to say, yeah, we do more than just the Parks Department, but we can, and some of their costs are expensive. I mean, the fair came to us wanting a crazy amount, and we had to cut it almost in half. And he quickly said, I'll take less to give it to another group. They want to help out, and I just think 5%, I know that'll hurt you guys, but that gives us 5% more to maybe try to give to somebody else. And I hope 2 Boy Scouts come up here and want to do a project, and we can give them the money, because
There'll be one pretty quick.
that's fine. Don't just after the quilts.
There's not a single person on the commission up here that doesn't want to say yes to every person.
Absolutely.
that walks through the
100%
door,
agree.
even if they are a scout,
Yeah.
But that's,
Even if.
even if, we want to say yes to everyone, and like I said, that's where you get into.
For the record, that was Chris
with
that
the
said even
splash
if.
pad and stuff like, you want to say yes, and
Yeah.
the downturn in the economy has put some stressors on a lot of that and our ability to do that.
And I don't think that is a permanent, steady trend. I think it's, it's gonna be maybe a 1 year, and things are gonna, turn around and go back up. We've gone through slow times before and stuff. And I'm thankful that, the A&P tax was passed just 1 year like prior to a big downturn in the economy, because a lot of things got accomplished because of that A&P tax that would have not happened, because everybody said, oh, budget's crisis, things are, we can't spend money and stuff like that. But we had that money coming in from the A&P tax, and so it was very, very beneficial to the town. And I think it is a very important and beneficial tax, and I'm thankful that our town has it, because a lot of things have gotten accomplished because of the A&P tax, and you fellows here on the A&P Commission. Appreciate y'all.
Any more comments? We have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I will
Second.
second the last one.
All in
favor?
favor?
Motion carries.
Do I need to hit stop streaming?